I have a picture hanging on my wall at home. Me and my baby crocodile. Welcome to Books and Banter, a podcast about books. I'm Janine, a library clerk.
And I'm Jess, branch admin.
And we both work at the Winkler branch of South Central Regional Library. In this podcast, we talk about books with our own twist. We read the first half of the book and predict where it might be going, and then finish reading the book and discuss the second half.
There will be snark, there will be spoilers, and depending on the book, there may be references to violence, sex, and other adult topics. So if that's not for you, stop listening now.
All right, let's get into this week's book. So Jess, do you know the difference between alligators and crocodiles?
Some of them. Different species.
It's a joke.
Don't ask me technical questions about animals.
The difference is that one will see you later and one will see you in a while. So you may not have guessed from my very poor joke that today we're reading Gator Country.
Next time give me a heads up and I'll give you a better.
Well, I wanted it to be a surprise. So today we're reading Gator Country by Rebecca Renner. To catch a Florida man, you have to become one. And that's what Officer Jeff Babauta did. As his ponytailed, whiskey-soaked alter ego, he established Sunshine Alligator Farm. His goal? Infiltrate the shady world of illegal poachers in the Florida Everglades in order to protect the natural world. A head-spinning adventure soon unfolds. Jeff deals with glow-in-the-dark alligators and high-speed airboat rides, but quickly learns that not all poachers are villains. They're simply people trying to survive, fighting against the poverty and greed holding them down. Jeff wants to solve the mystery of alligator poachers, and in doing so, he must venture deeper into a strange ecosystem where right is wrong and justice comes at the cost of those who've welcomed him into their world. Gator Country is the twisting true story of the impossible choices individuals must make to stay afloat in this world. Through its wholly unique blend of reporting, nature writing, and personal narrative, this book transports readers to vibrant and dangerous Florida landscapes and offers intimate portraits of those who call the region home. Broad in scope and vivid in detail, Gator Country is a fast-paced tale of the risks people will take to survive in one of the world's most beautiful yet formidable landscapes, and the undercover investigation that threatens to topple the whole scheme. This book was first published November 14th, 2023, and is Rebecca Renner's first book. So while I was researching, I found a bunch of reviews or snippets or whatever, quotes about the book, and this one I thought was kind of funny. This astonishing book moves as fast as a hungry gator slicing through the water. Rebecca Renner spins an incredible, only in Florida true crime tale that's a must-read for anyone who cares about protecting our environment. By Craig Pittman, author of Oh, Florida. So, I don't know, I just thought that was funny. A hungry gator slicing through the water.
Does lend an image.
All right. So I have quite a bit of info about the author because she's kind of funny. Her website is hilarious. The contact info button on her website, the contact me button, actually says, "Don't contact me."
Which I think is a great idea.
It's hilarious. So there's some quotes from her website and then also some frequently asked questions that she's answered that I'm going to share now. So, Rebecca Renner is the best thing about Florida, which is a weird way of calling me a beach. Anyway, hello. You made it here somehow. It's nice to have you. You're probably hoping I'll talk about myself here, so I guess I can do that, even though that puts me through the pain of being known. Here are the bullet points. I write mostly for National Geographic. Sometimes my work finds its way to cool other places like the New York Times, Outside Magazine, Sierra, Tin House, Paris Review, etc., etc., etc. I used to be a high school English teacher, which means I can do anything. I have an MFA in fiction writing, and I came to journalism by accident. Oops, with a question mark. Hear me out. Swamps are actually wonderful. They're biodiversity hotspots. Quit hating on wetlands. Sharks and alligators are cute. Fight me.
I mean, I would agree.
So, from the frequently asked questions, I'm angry about something you wrote. Cute. First off, that's not a question. Second, go here. And there must be I don't know why, whatever. You wrote a story but left me out. How do I get into the story? If it's already published, try time travel. Short of that, there's nothing you can do. Cool? Cool. Go off and enjoy your life. And finally, are you rich? And her response, LOL. So, anyways, she seems a little bit snarky. Not in a bad way, but like, yeah.
But we'll give as good as she gets.
Yeah. And also, like, I want to be a writer, but maybe I don't necessarily want the fame and all the focus on me that comes with being a writer. So these are my snarky comments, so maybe you'll leave me alone. So,
or at least if you're gonna bother me, you know what kind of responses you're going to get.
Exactly.
If you can't deal with that, leave me alone.
Yep. Exactly. So
fair enough.
Yeah, when we chose this book, we were looking for a kind of a replacement for a different one that we had chosen, decided not to read. And I pulled it off the shelf, and I thought, this is something that might be right up Jess's alley. She likes animals.
Because you just refuse to let me do the blimp book.
No, I'm not doing that one.
Why not?
Okay, I will read the blimp book if you will read Jane Austen. How about that?
Fine, I'll take that deal.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, dang it. dang it.
Don't bluff if you're not willing to back it up.
Will you also then watch the BBC miniseries of Pride and Prejudice?
No, but I will watch Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies.
No. Anyways, we'll have to do our wheeling and dealing off camera. I was going to say, but we're not on camera. Yeah. What'd you think?
I like it.
Yeah.
She is very clearly a storyteller. It's not a... there's some nonfiction books that feel like a collection of facts. And that they just shoved them all in together, sort of strung them together and went, there you go. This feels like a story. It reads more like fiction than it does nonfiction.
Yeah.
And I quite enjoy that. That's kind of the nonfiction I prefer to read for this kind of thing. Like, there's some stuff where I'm like, yeah, no, get technical. Because that's just the way I find the subject matter most appealingly presented.
Yeah.
But with this one, I think the storytelling angle works really well. So
this book, I feel like, is not so much about like technical facts as it is about the story.
It's the people behind it, not the technically you broke law 583 subsection P.
Right.
Like
yeah, and I feel like she writes in a way that is very easy to understand, albeit it is sometimes a little bit dull. There are some dull parts, but
about a third of the way into the first half, it hit a slow down point for me.
Yeah, I think
where I'm like, no, we don't need all that. We can just kind of move on. But after that point, I'm like, no, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
There's just a little bit too much setup.
The other thing that sometimes bugs me is when she writes and she's like, I'm from Florida, so I'm relatable to all of these people.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, which is like, yeah, okay, but like you
more relatable to people from other states, maybe.
You don't need to keep reminding us of that. Like, look how relatable I am, and look at all these people who are talking to me because I'm from Florida and I understand and I'm relatable.
But I think it is, though, an element in the book.
No, I know.
Because she is more relatable than most people that write about Florida.
Yes.
When they're not Floridian.
But do we have to be reminded of it at every conversation?
I'd argue no.
So that's my thing. I understand that, and yeah, for sure, 100%. Like,
but she did kind of cover that fairly extensively in the first part of the book, like the first couple chapters, where I'm like, okay, we can just.
Yeah, but she kept bringing it up.
Yeah, she kept harping on it
every time she met a new person and had a conversation with them. And look how much they opened up to me because.
Hello, I'd like to order a burger and fries. By the way, I'm from Florida and relatable.
Yeah, right. Like, no, I understand. Like, you know. You couldn't write a book about Crystal City in the same way that I could because you didn't grow up there and you don't know. And we were driving through Crystal City yesterday and I was like, oh, that's where so-and-so lives and that's where I did this and here's where this happened. And my older daughter was very annoyed and my younger daughter was like, keep telling us these facts, Mom. So anyway, but like... I get it, but I got it like the first time you said it.
You didn't have to keep saying it.
You don't need to keep saying it. But yes, I do like her writing style because it is like, I don't know if captivating is quite the right word. I did write down, like, I think I was still in the introduction and I was like, I'm already not captivated. Captivated is what I wrote, but I was hooked. Yeah. I was like, okay, this is going to be good. like, this one jumped out at me because I thought it would be something that you would like and that I would tolerate. But yeah, it's actually fairly interesting. I enjoy the chapters about Officer Jeff more than the ones about Peg Brown, though.
Yeah.
I find the Peg Brown ones a little duller.
My thing is, she switches, and I'm like, put in a chapter heading or something, saying, we're talking about me now. Because there's a couple times where it wasn't immediately obvious in the chapter where I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, and
I thought this was Jeff.
I'm not quite sure the significance yet of Peg Brown, aside from the fact that he was a very infamous poacher. Like, how does he relate to what Jeff is doing? Because I thought that was really the main story.
Well, see, I think the way she's approached the book is twofold. She's got the actual investigation operation, whatever it was called. Yeah. That is half of her focus for the book. But the other half is also poaching in general.
Okay, yeah.
So that's kind of the way I'm seeing it, is she's kind of telling two stories at the same time, because you sort of can't tell one without the other.
I guess, yeah.
But also telling them completely mashed together would be a complete hodgepodge. Yeah. So separating them and going kind of every other chapter, where one chapter is about Jeff, the other chapter is about poachers, another chapter about Jeff, poachers. I think it is a good way to kind of be able to cover both topics without trying to really shove them together too much. Because right now, I keep having to remind myself that Jeff's story is not fiction. Like,
it does read kind of like fiction, doesn't it?
It reads like fiction. So to then try and put the Peg Brown research stuff into it, I don't think would work. Yeah. Like, I just don't think you... Yeah. It's not that you couldn't do it, I just don't think it would come off as well as this does. So... Yeah. It does throw you a little bit when you don't realize that she's switched chapters, because I don't notice chapters for the most part. Honestly, trying to read according to the chapters, it's miserable. Reminds me of why I hated novel studies in school. I just do not notice chapter headings. Yeah. So, yeah. But, I don't know. I'm enjoying it.
I can't believe you bought an alligator for $75.
It is very affordable, isn't it?
It is. I was like, oh, I can afford an alligator.
I can afford multiple alligators.
Should I get an alligator? Where would I keep it?
Don't get an alligator.
When we were in Florida a number of years ago, we were staying at this hotel, and there was like a little river that ran through the property. And so there was like the main hotel, and then there was like a separate smaller building that was part of the hotel, but it was like you had to walk a ways between the two buildings. And so along this walkway, and there was a bridge, and it went over this river, but there was a sign warning of alligators because it's water in Florida.
I'm surprised they don't just have that at state lines, just going, there's alligators. Wherever you are, assume there's an alligator within 5 feet.
And so every time we would walk down that path, I was like, are we going to see an alligator today? We didn't see any, at least not in the wild. We saw alligators, I think, but at the aquarium.
See, I'm not comparing these animals, because obviously they are different, I say, as I'm about to compare the animals. To me, alligators down south are kind of like bears up north. For the most part, leave them alone and you'll be fine. Take precautions, don't be an idiot, but the general not aggressive unless provoked kind of deal. Yeah. You'll see them, it'll be fine, don't poke them with a stick, you'll be okay.
No sudden noises.
Yeah. Now, obviously, the industry and everything surrounding them is entirely different, the environment's entirely different, the amount of people encroaching upon territory is completely different. That's why you have more alligator stuff than you have bear stuff, but similar in the leave them alone, you'll be fine. So, yeah. But how did you find the whole poaching angle?
I mean, it's very like in 28 years, she said Peg Brown caught over 10,000 gators. That's a lot of alligators, I feel like. And I think it said like a gator a day, which to me seems like a lot.
A day keeps the game warden away.
But like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know a lot about poaching aside from like what I've heard like in Africa when they poach for like elephant tusks and those kinds of things. Yeah. But like, I'm just going to look something up here that I wrote down a page number. I didn't want to write down all the info, but it was something like there was a
Definition?
There was a definition of, it was poaching, and I think it was the difference between poaching and something else. Difference between poaching and hunting. And this was interesting to me because my husband grew up in a hunting family, and so at the most basic level, poaching is taking organisms from the wild without appropriate licensure. This illegal take comes in many forms, most of which aren't nearly so obvious as the act of a big game hunter shooting a rhinoceros. Poaching can be as small as catching a fish that isn't the right size and not throwing it back. Hunting certain animals outside their designated season is poaching. Harvesting plants from public land can be poaching. Sometimes taking anything at all from the wild on public land without the appropriate permits is poaching too. Laws governing humanity's rights to the natural world get more complicated from there. And then she asked the question, if the law is incomprehensible, not just to the average person, but even to the educated one, can carrying it out be justice? So, like, poaching covers so much. Mm-hmm. Like, it's such a wide range of things that probably, like, if you talk about taking a plant or something,
you've probably poached
I've probably poached something, and without knowing it,
mm-hmm.
right? We probably all have.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very.
I like if the law is incomprehensible to the average person and to those that have actually studied it,
Mm-hmm.
is it really justice to actually be carrying it out? Because it's the whole informed consent
Mm-hmm.
argument, really.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're agreeing to, can that really be considered consent?
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you're having an operation and a doctor's running you through it. You don't really understand necessarily
Mm-hmm.
what the ramifications could be and the actual technical aspect of it. So what you're then consenting to, is it...
Yeah.
Like, how culpable are they if something goes wrong, if
Mm-hmm.
you didn't understand what the risks were to begin with?
Yep.
So,
It's true.
when it comes to poaching especially, it's... If I didn't know, and it was, like, honestly didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't something... Like, I never would have thought of plants.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's some plants where I'm like, yeah, it's an invasive species, please don't.
Yeah.
But just a general pick a flower kind of a thing,
Mm-hmm.
I would never have thought of that as poaching.
Yeah.
So...
I know. And that's, like, obviously, like, shooting a rhinoceros,
obvious.
like, you know, that's very obvious, but there are a lot of things that are less obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing, a quote I wrote down from, I think it was the introduction, and she said, "It's easy to speak in terms of black and white, but most of us live in the gray."
Yeah.
Which, you know, it's very fit into this, like, poaching thing. Like, if people who enforce the law aren't fully clear on the law, how can they enforce the law? Or if the laws aren't fully clear to the public, like...
How can you justify enforcing a law that they didn't realize was even a thing, never mind understanding it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's unjust in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's not willfully... You don't have willful knowledge of breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
But that also being said, I found it quite interesting. Was it black rhinos? The white rhinos. There's rhinos anyway, one or two of them, they have an armed guard at all times
Oh, wow.
to protect from poachers. And
What a job that would
is
be.
it justifiable for them to shoot poachers, to shoot to kill,
Huh.
in order to protect this animal? And whether or not that's legally or morally correct.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a point where I'm like, well, yeah, it to a point is, because who is approaching you and that rhino with a gun? What are the chances they actually are like, oh no, I'm just here for a stroll to kill some antelope? Like,
Yeah, no.
you can argue that was approach with intent to harm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you could justifiably shoot them. I mean, aim for the kneecaps first, but like,
Shoot to wound.
it is their job to protect it.
Yeah. That's
It's
wild.
not that much different than a bodyguard protecting a person and shooting another person to protect that person. This person just happens to be a rhino.
Not a person at all, really.
No, but like it's ultimately their job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's not really different than a soldier going, you have to protect this base,
Yeah.
this particular tower, this particular hill, this particular stick. you have to protect, and then shooting people to do it. So I found that argument in the book quite interesting. But it gets off the topic slightly from poachers, obviously.
Yeah.
But she makes a lot of good points, because people are sometimes poaching to survive. They are poaching meat that they eat.
Yeah.
It's not trophies, it's not for the heads, it's not for the antlers, it's not for the hides. It's so that we can feed our families.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time saying that is legal.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
Like,
I mean, at one point, alligators were an endangered species, right? And so now they're not, but, like, I understand the desire to protect, right? And not have them be endangered again or go extinct or whatever.
yeah, but
But people still need to survive.
when it comes right down to it, am I going to protect the alligator, or am I going to protect the person that needs to eat?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And the thing is, like, I don't think so much it's like the local people, right? It's those people who are coming in with the intent to, like, so the local people are maybe poaching, but their reasons for it are more valid.
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing this so, like, maybe I can sell it and make some money, or maybe I can get the meat and feed my family, you know, things like that.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's... one of the points she made multiple times was that there's more damage and more ecological harm done by tourism and development than there is that poachers could do in 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that poaching can't do harm. I mean, if you look at the passenger pigeon, oh my word, legalized hunting, not poaching, but wiped out within 100 years. Went from flocks that were, the sky was black with passenger pigeons to literally gone within 100 years. Hunting can do significant damage. But I'd argue, if you're finding that poaching, and this is it's a systemic problem, and it is a problem that needs to be fixed on a higher level than what will ever happen, because certain countries are not prioritizing things correctly. But arguably, if you're having a huge poaching problem and people are poaching, it's locals poaching, and it's locals poaching that are living below the poverty line, you really should be getting more federal assistance and that kind of thing, or putting a cap on the number of outsiders that can come in and hunt, so that the locals are able to poach sustainably,
Right.
for lack of a better term. I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm all for the environment. I do not want to see anything extinct. I think the number of species that go extinct is insane. The Tasmanian tiger, for example, like, died out. We have one picture of it. We don't even know whether it's male or female, and it's just gone.
I've never even heard of that.
And you can't bring it back. Like, it's gone. And the ripple effect that has throughout the ecosystem in general affects everything. I mean, if you look even just locally, as more wolves and coyotes get hunted, and, like, there's no cap on coyotes. You can go shoot a coyote whenever. The more coyotes and wolves are hunted, the more and more deer we have, and the bigger problem that is. Like, we have herds of deer that just move into towns and that just won't leave. And you can't shoot them because it's in town.
We saw 5 deer just outside of Lariver yesterday. We're, like, right on the edge.
Personally, I'd argue we could probably add a few more tags to the whitetail population around here. Because they are an invasive species. They are, well, yes, they're invasive species originally. They have become part of the ecosystem, part of the food chain, etc., etc., etc. But they do a fair amount of damage. It's like wild boars. They are, unfortunately, now part of the ecosystem. You are allowed to hunt them whenever. And I think that's an excellent thing, because they are destructive.
Yeah.
Like, horribly destructive. But the mass extinction of any one species has a ripple effect, and you have to account for that. Like, as much as we love dreaming of the idea that there's no more mosquitoes in Manitoba, the reality of it is you would have the birds and whatnot that feed off the mosquitoes and the frogs and things would suffer.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
there's very, very few things in the environment that can be disappeared without any effect. Like, you can't. And the human effects on the environment if you look at just even the last 100 years, the amount of stuff that's changed, it is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the fact that they were trying to study the effect of PFAs in the human bloodstream, the human system. They were unable to find a single living person that did not have PFAs in their bloodstream. They could not get a blood sample. They had to go back to 1940 when they were getting blood samples from the soldiers going overseas and use those samples to compare numbers with PFAs now.
What's the PFA?
Microplastics and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Generally found in the water and everywhere else. Like, there's such a buildup that, yes, we do have to preserve the environment because all the other random stuff we're putting into it is already doing so much damage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even just straws and sea turtles.
Okay, but seriously, can I have my plastic straws back? Or not paper?
I do find it ridiculous that straws are the thing where they're like, oh, if we remove the straw, it will save everything. No, it won't.
Straws are not the hill we should be dying on.
No. I would also argue that there's no reason why the same lids they put on coffee cups can't be used on most other beverages.
Right. Except Slurpees.
I would rather that than a straw.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Like
200% even.
And ultimately, what's causing more problems? The bigger piece of plastic on the lid or the smaller amount of plastic in the straw?
Yeah. I know. Those paper straws, man. Ugh. Yuck.
Maybe I'm special because I don't have the problem with them that everybody else seems to.
They just disintegrate and then your drink tastes funny and you can't I like to chew my paper straws.
You're a chewer.
You can't do that with plastics or with paper straws. I don't know. I just don't know. And they taste gross in my mouth.
There's some that are better than others. The straws that come in juice boxes, specifically co-op juice boxes, because I'm going to call them out, are the worst thing in the world. Most straws have like some kind of wax coating. They don't.
Oh.
Like, roll up a piece of printer paper and use that. It will be better.
Ugh.
Like, it's just, it feels like paper pulp. Ooh. No. Most other paper straws I'm kind of fine with, but...
When we were in Texas earlier in the winter, I collected straws from restaurants and brought back a handful.
I don't care enough to do that. The drink's going to be gone in 20 minutes.
Not me. I like to savor my beverages. Yeah.
The one thing I do agree is not an option is the metal reusable straws.
You don't like those?
No. It feels like I'm drinking everything through a filter of germs. I don't care how well you wash them. The metal affects the taste, and the metal never feels clean.
What about a plastic reusable straw? Same thing?
No. I do not like reusable straws. They never feel like they're actually getting clean. It's gross. I will take the lid off of a thing and drink it manually.
Manually.
Before I will use a reusable straw.
With your mouth?
Yeah.
What if you're just drinking water through it, though?
No, still. It icks me out.
It icks you out.
Yep. Gives me the ick.
All right. So, one fact that I found very interesting in this book is that bees are more deadly than alligators.
Yeah. You have more... Put it this way. How many people do you know have a bee allergy?
I don't think any.
How many people do you know that have an alligator allergy? I could
Also
confidently say none.
Yeah. No, I know. I just... it's not something you would normally think of, really. The average person wouldn't think of it. Perhaps you did.
Well, it's one of those things where I question a little bit where they're getting their numbers from. Because are we talking bees within the state of Florida are more deadly than alligators within the state of Florida? Because, okay, those are comparable numbers. But if you're going bees in the United States or North America versus alligators in the United States or North America, alligators are a very small portion size there, whereas bees are across the entirety. So...
True.
Skewing your numbers a wee bit there, but if she's actually talking, like, within Florida for both, cool.
I don't remember what her data was, but it just...
But it does make sense because you've got allergies.
Just tickled.
Tickled
my funny bone.
An alligator bite. I guess everybody's technically allergic to an alligator bite.
Well, I wouldn't call it an allergy so much as just a death sentence.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily, though.
No.
Like, if it bites you in the leg and...
It's like you could be shot without dying.
Yeah.
Like, technically. No. One of the things I did find adorable in this book is whenever they're talking about baby alligators, they're talking about, like, their little squeaks.
Yeah.
It's so cute. I mean, baby alligators are adorable. Baby caimans look weird.
Yeah. And the baby crocodile ones.
All nose. It's like baby flamingos, all leg. It's just leg for days.
That's cute, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to predict a nonfiction book.
I think Jeff's going to have some trouble.
Oh, 100%.
When it comes to the actual arresting of people. I think he's going to empathize with them quite a bit.
Yeah, he seems like a good guy.
I do think he's going to actually do his job and whatnot, so...
Yeah, but he seems like a good guy.
Yeah. I was expecting, put it this way, the lieutenant, I was expecting Jeff to be a little bit more like that. I do not trust the lieutenant.
No.
He seems shady.
He does seem a little shady, and I don't know why I feel that way, but...
I don't know, like, there's nothing really specific I can point to where I can go, aha, that's it.
Yeah.
But he just, I don't know, something about the way he's going about the operation feels not totally kosher.
Yeah.
So, but, yeah.
I don't disagree.
We may find out in the second half, I guess. So, any final thoughts?
So far, I would recommend this book.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting.
It is interesting. In a way that I didn't expect. So,
yeah.
Other than that, I'm just curious to read more.
Well put.
And we're back with part 2 of Gator Country. So, I'm going to say, like, first off the bat, whatever, right off the bat, a lot of my comments on the second half were about him working undercover. And, like, what a strange thing that would be, and how do you separate the two personas, and, you know, like, how I would make a terrible undercover officer, and on and on and on. So, yeah, that was... But here's a question, and I don't know if you know. If an officer does something illegal while they're undercover, do they get charged for that illegal thing?
No.
They're immune to...
Unless it's like, oh, I just happened to murder 15 people.
Well,
like, there's obviously, like, yes, you can hit the threshold of you're going to be prosecuted for this. But as far as I understand, it's quite similar to military stuff in a lot of ways, in terms of, yes, you kill somebody while you're in the military, but it was literally your job at the time.
Right.
And yes, you may have infiltrated a foreign embassy and stolen state secrets, but literally your job at the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm assuming there's quite a few, like, you cannot go on a killing spree and go, well, it was for the job.
But, like, anything related to the operation is...
Yeah.
admissible.
Like, if you're told to start up an alligator farm, they can't exactly go, but you have alligators on it.
Yeah.
Like, well, dude, yeah, otherwise it's just a farm.
Well, I don't think alligator farms in and of themselves are illegal.
No, they're not.
It's not.
Like,
but
you can't tell somebody to infiltrate a group of criminals and then expect them to not have to do criminal things.
Yeah.
Because criminal groups aren't exactly known it for letting in, you know...
straight-laced people.
Straight-laced people that don't want to commit any crimes. Because it's kind of like somebody applying for a job, but then going, oh, I won't be doing any of that. Do you know what you're here for?
Right.
So.
Yeah. I just, like, his conscience kept getting in the way of, like, I'm like, no. I don't, like, yes, the kids. Sure, let's think about the kids, but the wives are just as guilty as the husbands. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Well, the rest of the wives, they were never really specified in terms of who they were or to what degree that they were doing.
No.
Robin was guilty as heck.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, she knew.
Oh, 100%.
Completely
I'm sure
and
all of
totally.
the wives knew. They had to have.
I don't know, because I wouldn't say all the wives know, because a lot of the poaching comes down to the numbers and the very specific legislation. Do the wives know that they're supposed to be skipping every other nest? I wouldn't. Do they know how many eggs they're supposed to take? Like, especially if it's, come on, dear, let's go egg hunting. Cool, what do I do? Oh, you do this and this and this. Okay, and then they do this and this and this. It's not as though there's a giant red flag saying, this particular line that you're crossing is illegal. Unless they're actually looking into the specifics, or they know the specifics, which I would expect that they don't, because it was very much described as kind of a family outing type of deal. You know, take your kids and do crime, why not? I would be quite surprised if they actually are aware of what, if you sat them down and said, what did you do that broke the law? Like, specifically, what law? I don't think they'd know.
Okay. Well, maybe.
Robin would.
100% she would.
Like, I'm not saying all of them are innocent. Some of them might know, but by and large, I would expect that they didn't. Like, do you know that the cap on eggs is 580?
But I've never been in a position where I have had access to that information or needed to know it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. More local thing then. How many deer tags? Like, how many deer can you kill in a season? Rifle season specifically.
Oh, man. I did know this at one point. I can't remember now. Is it like, it's between 2 and 5, I think.
2.
2. Okay.
It was 2. If your husband came home with a third deer, would you know that that was illegal?
Well, I would now. So, yes.
Darn, better clean that meat out of the freezer. But, like, it's, if your husband doesn't actually say, hey, honey, I'm allowed to get 2 deer this season, and you go, okay, and then he brings home a third deer, like, you're not gonna know. You might, but I don't think it's one of those, you should have known he was breaking the law. Because how much attention do you pay to your husband's hobbies?
It depends on what his hobby is.
Depends how much I care on any given day.
Yes, exactly right.
So, he might be breaking the law, you don't know.
Well, not my husband.
I would be quite surprised
I do
if
know
he was
that.
your husband. That's the thing, like, the expectations that a spouse would know the ins and outs of the laws associated with their husband's or other spouse's side hustle or hobby.
It just really depends on the person.
I'd argue it's probably more on the side of, probably doesn't know. There's definitely going to be some that do.
Yep.
But just we've gone really deep into this, actually.
I know.
But just as a general thing, I would expect, put it this way, if I was a parent and my partner was doing something illegal, I wouldn't be bringing the kids.
No, definitely not.
I think Robin should have been arrested.
Yep.
Because I think she was pretty deep into it.
I'm pretty sure she was.
And ultimately, like, I appreciate the fact that Jeff was still seeing them as human beings.
Yes, he was compassionate.
However, there's a point where I'm like, I understand the not wanting to separate them from the daughters. However, both parents were breaking the law, and ultimately he did 3 years. Like, we're not talking life sentence here.
No. And when you're just as guilty, I mean, don't do the crime if you can't do the time, right?
Exactly. And the daughters probably could have stayed with family or whatever. Like, it's not... I don't think having a kid should get you out of crimes.
No. If it did...
Boy, we'd have an overpopulation problem.
People would be doing crimes all over the place.
Like, is it a factor that should be considered in terms of location of incarceration? Yes, I think so. Don't move them to a prison thousands of miles away, which generally doesn't happen anyway. Keep it so that it's within reason, of course.
Yeah.
If you gotta be in a supermax, you gotta be in a supermax. But if I have a kid, I shouldn't be able to get away with things.
No. No, I mean, good on him for that compassion and, like, thinking of them as humans and whatever. But at the same time, like...
And I don't think that the court system should have actually gone... Do you want... We'll take that under consideration and we will consider that. Because Robin was guilty as heck.
Yeah.
Like, she was there, knee-deep in it. Literally.
In the first half, I don't know if... Well, I'm sure you remember how I was saying how the author kept trying to, like, prove how Floridian she was. So I read some reviews after, and there was other people who made that same comment, too. And I was like, okay, I'm not the only one who noticed this.
Not just me.
No, but she very much was like, look at me, I'm so Florida.
I'm Miss Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I understand being proud of where you come from and using that as a tool to help you in your job.
I think it definitely gave her a different perspective.
Yeah, 100%.
By the end of the book, it was getting a little bit annoying.
I don't need to hear it every time you meet a new person.
No. Like, it gets to the point where introducing yourself as, "Hi, I'm Floridian Rebecca Renner." It's like, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah. It's...
Like,
yeah. But anyway, I just was like, okay. So it was noticeable. It wasn't just me being nitpicky. It was other people who said the same thing. Unless we're all just being nitpicky, in which case...
entirely possible.
Yeah. So...
I did... One of the things I did like, though, was how to put this? The fact that the human aspect of going undercover was acknowledged. The fact that Jeff forgot who he was, like in terms of his name and stuff like that. And the flipping back and forth between his life and the undercover life was difficult. Because I feel like oftentimes it's all facts and figures, no human, when it comes to doing undercover work. And the fact that he, like, at the beginning of the book, he was very, like, rules. Like, rules. Good rules.
Yeah.
And by the end, he was empathizing with them a lot more, and a lot more like, well, you know, if you gotta do it to eat, you don't. That kind of thing.
Well, that's the thing, right? And that's so often, like, well, I have to feed my family. I can't make a living through normal means. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to feed my family?
Yeah.
You know, and I have so far never been in such a desperate place that I've had to do something illegal to take care of my family. But I can only imagine what that must feel like, you know? Like, you don't want to do this thing, but at the same time...
what else are you going to do if you've tried everything else?
Yeah.
Like, well, that's the thing where... don't get me wrong. I think poaching is wrong. Because the populations need to be protected and yada yada. However, when people are hunting to eat and hunting to survive, and they're not hunting an endangered population, there's a point where I'm going, I think that should be tried differently.
Yeah.
And treated differently than the Swedish big game hunter.
Yeah.
Oh, I do not like trophy hunters. Seriously, stop it. I'll buy you a stuffed one at the carnival. Go home.
Well, and the ones who came out, they weren't even taking them back with them. They just left them there.
No.
It was just for fun. And, like,
they
now
put
we're gonna...
an alligator on a line, shot it, and then left it.
Yeah.
Like,
they just threw it out like trash.
Seriously, why?
Yeah.
It's pointless.
Yeah.
Like, I've got no problem with people, you know, keeping the head of a deer that they've shot. If they're eating the deer, and they're using the hide and everything like that, I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, whatever. I don't have a problem with that. The hunters that just take the head and go, I'm like, seriously? What is even the point? Eat it. Like, if you're not going to eat it, don't kill it.
Yes, or unknowingly eat it when your mother-in-law cooks it and doesn't tell you that that's what it is.
What? Somebody sneak deer meat in?
Yeah. She had, like, deer sausage, and she put it on a pizza.
Oh, how did that go?
It was, like, tasted kind of like regular sausage. We routinely put sausage on pizza, like farmer sausage, so...
See, I'm a sausage snob. Okay. Just thinking of the deer that I've had. And you can tell that it's deer. Like, it's not... Could be pig.
Tastes like chicken.
Yeah, exactly. It does not taste like chicken. I'm not saying it was bad or anything. It's just, you could tell it was deer. So I'm wondering about that on a pizza. No.
Well, there's enough other flavors. I don't know. I didn't realize it till... I had already eaten it when I was told.
Quite honestly, deer is one of those things where I'm, yeah, sure, sneak it in. What do I care? Like, bison I'd like to be notified about, please. Just because I'd like to... I want to know if I can tell the difference. And what, like, I would like to be able to identify this.
I have to not think too hard about where my meat is coming from, or else I can't eat it.
I thought you were a farm kid.
I am. And I know, I get it, and I eat it, but when I start to really think about, like, oh, this is a deer out in the wild, and I'm eating a wild animal, I start to get a little bit of an ick factor. When we were in Australia, we ate kangaroo.
See, that's one I want to try.
That was
in
really
my brain,
hard.
It says the meat is bouncy. It's not.
It's
I know
very
it's not.
beef-like.
But when people describe meat as bouncy, I go, kangaroo.
No, it's very beef-like. But it was hard for me to eat it because kangaroos are cute. And I had just...
So are cows.
I had just fed some. Not all cows are cute.
A large percentage of cows are cute.
See, I grew up on a cattle farm. And I find it odd when people drive past a field of cows and go, ooh, cows. Because I'm like,
cows.
It's cows. And so we were talking about it at a family gathering one time, and Mike's uncle is a cattle farmer, and so his son's farm. And I was like, do you do that when you drive past cow field? And they're like, yeah, it's cows. And I'm like, exactly, it's
so they're
cows.
more as like enthusiasts.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, hey, look, a moo.
Yeah. Like Highland cows. I think Highland cows are very cute.
Oh, they're adorable.
They're so adorable. I would, if I was
mini cows.
going to get a pet, I might be one of those. But no, I don't get excited about cows. I grew up on a cattle farm. My aunt and uncle had dairy cows. Like, it's not thrilling to me.
I will remark cows occasionally, but generally when I'm like, oh, wow, they're out early, or look, baby cows. Because little calves are absolutely adorable, and feeding them is just so much fun.
Mike points them out to the girls sometimes when we're driving. But I get that because they're not farm kids.
Yeah.
Right? So.
But it's still one of those things where I'm like, oh, I'll point out a llama. Don't get me wrong, I will point the heck out of a llama. But they're so common.
Yeah, I know.
That I'm like, yeah? This your first time in Manitoba?
Yes, well, for my brother-in-law was not quite, but I don't think he's been to Manitoba a lot.
But has he seen a cow before?
Yes. I mean, he spent a lot of years in Kansas.
I think cows.
I think there are cows there, so.
If any listeners are from Kansas, can you confirm, are there cows in Kansas?
They're like not far from Oklahoma, and there are definitely ranchers in Oklahoma.
Linda, make that the question for the Spotify thing. Are there cows in Kansas?
Well, I could just send them a text and ask them.
No, this is more fun.
I'm fairly certain there are cows in Kansas.
Are there cows in Texas? Oh, heck yeah.
There are cows in Texas, yes.
I'm pretty sure Texas as a state would collapse if there wasn't any cows in it.
Oh, it's funny. I've been to both those states in the last year. I'm so well traveled. No. Anyway, we're like way off topic here.
Yeah. Oof. Would you eat alligator?
This
is just now becoming would you eat? I would.
Yeah, maybe. I wonder if I have. Maybe crocodile I ate. I'm trying to think. We ate a lot of weird things when we were in Australia.
I feel like you have to. You're in Australia.
I held a crocodile in Australia in my hands.
I'm assuming a little baby.
A baby. I have a picture hanging on my wall at home. Me and my baby crocodile. Yeah, I probably would try it. I don't know. Mike bought chocolate-covered crickets.
Nope, I'm noping out of that. They got too many legs.
At the co-op, the girls and I were like, hard pass.
Yeah.
No. He took them to work and they ate them there. But I was like, no. Bugs is where I draw the line.
Bugs is one of those things where I'm like, if you can put it in something and under no circumstances tell me you've done it or that it's there.
Right.
Like, if you can sneak it in.
Or if I accidentally eat one without knowing it.
Yes. But just snacking on whole crickets, I'm noping the heck out of that because, ooh, too many legs.
Yeah. Gross. Gross.
But also, like, a lot of protein powders are insect-based. Like, you get cricket powder and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's a point where I'm like, well, if you gotta do it, that's the option.
Well.
It's a better option than just, like, a shaker of crickets. So.
Shaker of crickets.
I don't know, for some reason there's a shaker in my head.
Let's season this meal with some crickets. Ugh. 100% no.
Not in any recognizable form. But I think, like, it comes down to a lot of what you're used to. Like, eating gator down in the, like, southern states is...
No big deal.
Just Tuesday.
Rednecks eating rabbit? No big deal.
Yeah.
Would I try rabbit?
I'd eat rabbit.
I don't know if I would. But...
I think majority of things, you prepare them right and they're fine. So we should get back to actual alligators.
We really should.
So.
What did you think of this book in the end? Like,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think it was well written. I think it was a good snapshot of the poaching problems when it comes to alligators and general conservation. I do find it interesting that some of the poachers are becoming conservationists in some ways in terms of protecting the wetlands and that kind of thing, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. Like, It was quite interesting. It's well written. The only complaint that I really have is, please tell me at the beginning of the chapter who it is. There's a number of times where I'm like, I'm 2 pages in. I don't think this is Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's Rebecca again.
Yeah.
Not that her books were bad or anything like that. Just where I'm like, we were on a boat heading out to a mangrove grove, and we stopped at this old shanty thing, and I'm like, Jeff, you were just dealing with baby alligators. What are you doing? Oh, wait.
Yeah. The Jeff chapters were the better chapters for me.
Mm-hmm. But I do understand why she put the other ones in.
Oh, yeah. I get it.
Like, it adds more depth to the story.
Mm-hmm.
I just need a chapter heading saying Rebecca or Jeff or something.
Yeah.
So
I did like it better than I thought I would.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie. It was actually fairly interesting in the end.
Yeah.
So.
Well, what I liked, it wasn't a black and white perspective of poaching.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't all poachers are bad and all conservationists are good, because it's not that black and white.
It's not.
And poaching is so ambiguous in many ways, in terms of, if you take a flower from a certain area, you're a poacher.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's rules and laws, I think it was mentioned in the first part, where if the law is incomprehensible to the people that are supposed to follow it, is there actual reasonable expectation that you should be following that law when it's not made accessible?
Right, I know. So, in the first half, I shared a quote about black and white and gray. I'm going to share another one that was in the second half, because it struck me as well. It says, you can care about people who are doing things you think are wrong. It isn't cowardly to stop seeing the world as black and white. It doesn't make you complicit. The gray is where compassion lives.
I like that.
And I thought, yeah, that is true. And I think so many issues today are like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the world is not black and white, and people who continue to think that it is are going to have a hard time with life.
Well, it's problematic to look at the world as black and white.
Yeah.
Like, how can you say if you steal, you should be punished, just point, and that's it?
Right.
When they might be stealing to feed their children.
Right. Like, I have to steal this formula because it's $40 for a can.
Yeah.
And I can't afford that.
Exactly. But otherwise my baby starves.
Right.
But if they didn't steal it, then they would be committing child neglect.
Right.
So that's also illegal. Like, you cannot go with a black and white interpretation of the law. It's...
Not in every case, anyway.
Not in every case, no. And intent is incredibly important. Yeah. Like, Robert intended to defraud absolutely everyone across the board.
Yeah. He was screwing over everybody.
Like, and that was the one thing in the second half where I'm like, the way I read Jeff, he had a pretty good radar in terms of shady versus unshady. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he thought Robert was good, I'm like, dude, Robert was shady from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like, that guy was red flags all the way.
But the sense I got from Jeff is that he just really wanted to see the good in people. And he wanted to believe that
he was an optimist and I'm a pessimist.
he wanted to believe that people were inherently good. Mm-hmm. And, they're not doing this for, like, bad reasons. They're whatever, right?
Well, I think one of the things, too, is Robert's operation, by all accounts that we get from the book, was a well-run operation in terms of care for the actual alligators themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably what counted a large part in terms of Jeff's original opinion of him, because it's not uncommon for those type of operations to have more... I don't want to say they're committing animal abuse or anything like that, because obviously that's different connotations and things, but to have unsafe practices for humans and or animals that can come back and bite them literally. And Robert's operation wasn't.
Yeah.
So I think that was probably a huge tick in his favor in terms of why Jeff thought he was better than what he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, go with that. So, but no, I mean, I'd recommend this book to anybody because it's fascinating. It
is very interesting. I almost wanted to give it to Mike to read. I thought maybe he would like it.
Yeah, you should. He probably found it interesting.
Well, I don't know. It's not Louis L'Amour.
No, but you can tell him since you read a Louis L'Amour book, he has to read one of your books.
wouldn't call this one of my books per se, but and now in my life I've read 3 Louis L'Amours, so he owes me 2 more.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Now you can get him hooked on Fourth Wing as well.
He would hate that.
I don't see that happening.
No, not even maybe.
I don't think that would fly. No. We might be able to get him hooked on the blimp book.
Maybe.
Bitch is based on fact test. Blimps haven't actually read it yet.
Maybe it's a terrible book. You keep talking about this book, but I don't know, man.
Maybe we shouldn't read it. That way it won't ruin it for me. Anyway, yeah. Do you have any fun facts?
I do. I actually have a lot of fun facts today, and I apologize, but I couldn't decide where to cut it off. So here we go. We have 2 fun facts categories today. The first fun fact, Florida Man.
Yes, Florida Man.
Florida Man is an internet meme first popularized in 2013, referring to an alleged prevalence of people performing irrational or maniacal actions in the U.S. state of Florida. Internet users typically submit links to news stories and articles about unusual or strange crimes and other events occurring in Florida, with stories headlines often beginning with Florida Man, followed by the main event of the story. Because of the way news headlines are typically written, they can be creatively interpreted as implying that the subjects of the articles are all a single individual known as Florida Man.
I really hope in like 2,000 years, when archaeologists are digging up stuff from now, they go, my word, there's just one Florida Man. Like, Florida Man's very prolific. He must be a local superhero or something.
Superhero?
And just attribute everything to one
man.
One guy.
The Miami New Times claimed that freedom of information laws in Florida make it easier for journalists to acquire information about arrests from the police than in other states, and that this is responsible for a large number of news articles. A CNN article on the meme also suggested that the breadth of reports of bizarre activities is due to a confluence of factors, including public records laws, giving journalists fast and easy access to police reports, the relatively high population of the state, its highly variable weather, and gaps in mental health funding.
I think the gaps in mental health funding is definitely a contributing factor.
Yeah. So, some titles. Florida Man hit dad in face with pizza after learning he helped deliver him, police say. Fugitive Florida Man on bike hoped hideous blonde wig disguise would help him evade deputies, police say. Florida Man steals alligator from golf course, tries teaching it a lesson by throwing it on roof of bar.
I want to talk to that man. What lesson?
Yeah, right? In 2019, a variation of the meme developed on social media in which people were encouraged to look up Florida Man and the date of their birthday, typically finding a bizarre news report involving a Florida Man on that date. So I have done that with our birthdays. So the first one is my birthday. I've got 2 headlines. Florida Man climbs on playground equipment, tells kids where babies come from. A Florida man's arm was amputated after he was attacked by a 10-foot alligator. That one's not really so funny, but...
No, I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm just surprised more of him wasn't amputated.
And now a few headlines from Jess's birthday. Florida man put laxatives in boy's medication, deputies say. Florida man arrested after shooting mom who asked him to stop smoking in the house. Florida man attacks mattress in jealous rage. And finally...
I'm just reading that as you said jealous of the mattress,
yeah,
which is hilarious.
Finally, Florida man arrested after calling 911 for booze and ice cream.
As in, like, delivery?
I think so.
I'm assuming he's not calling saying he wants to arrest booze and ice cream.
No, I think he wanted them to bring him booze and ice cream.
No, they only have donuts.
So anyways, there you go. If you Google Florida Man, you will find...
Enjoy. That is our gift to you.
When I was working on this, I was having a good laugh.
My favorite, I don't think it was a Florida thing. I think it may have been Georgia. Woman stabs husband with squirrel.
Oh, yeah.
Best headline. Because just so many questions.
You can also Google Florida woman. Mm-hmm. And I believe there are lots of those as well. So. Yes. So yeah, there you have it, Florida Man.
You can do a deep dive on that because that'll take you quite a long time and it will be enjoyable.
It will be very entertaining.
And you will have zero doubt about the gaps in mental health funding.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Anyways, our second category of fun facts today, alligators, of course, because the book was about alligators. Jess likes alligators and animals in general.
Yes.
So
They're fascinatingly weird.
if we can fit in an animal fun fact category, then we will generally try and do that. So, one of the weirder facts about alligators is that the sex of them is determined not by DNA, but rather by climate. If the temperature in the baby alligator nest is warm, male alligators are born. If the temperature is cool, the babies are females. Mother alligators lay their eggs on a mound of dirt. When the eggs are ready to hatch, the baby alligators use an egg tooth on top of their snouts to break the shell. So does that egg tooth fall out after? Or does it just become a regular tooth?
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. She's going to look it up. I'm going to continue. Alligators' eyes are on the top of their heads, making it easy for them to lie almost entirely submerged in water and still see their prey. Alligators, like cats, also have a structure in the back of their eyes that reflects light to improve night vision. If you catch an alligator's eyes with a flashlight, they will glow red. You can also tell how big an alligator is by the distance between its eyes. The greater the distance, the longer the alligator.
I would argue most things, the bigger you get. Like, if your eyes stay the same distance apart from birth to death, you look very weird.
Okay.
Baby alligators have a pointed egg tooth to help them break out of their shell. This tooth is lost soon after hatching.
Okay, there you go.
Hatchlings are about 8 inches long. A group of hatchlings is called a pod.
A pod. Alligators have about 75 teeth in their mouths at any one time, but as teeth wear down or break off, they are replaced. As a result, many can have about 3,000 teeth over the course of their lives. According to some sources, alligators can bite with a force of nearly 3,000 pounds per inch, making their bite among the most powerful in the world.
Fun fact. Most of the muscles in an alligator's jaw are geared towards biting down really hard and really fast, but their muscles to actually open their jaws are relatively weak in comparison. So you may be able to holding an alligator's jaw closed is a lot easier than holding an alligator's jaw open. Because there's just a lot less force there.
Interesting. Alligators don't hibernate, but they do go through a dormancy period during colder weather. Before going dormant, they use their feet and snouts to dig out what's known as a gator hole, a depression or tunnel in the mud.
What else would you call it?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a hole with a gator in it.
Gator holes can be up to 65 feet long, and they protect the alligators when it's too hot or cold for comfort. During this brumation period, which can last up to 5 months, their heart rates and metabolism slow way down. They continue to breathe through their snouts, which they stick slightly out of the water. In the coldest areas, the water will freeze around them.
It looks so weird to see alligators with snouts frozen out of the water.
I was just thinking how that must look. Finally, a study found that wild alligator blood has both antibiotic and antiviral properties. 13, in fact. It is active against HIV-1, West Nile virus, and herpes simplex virus. These properties also help protect the alligators themselves from infection after injury.
There's a reason why gators have been around since basically the dinosaurs.
So, there you have it.
Yeah, they are the sharks of the land.
Alligators are kind of cool.
Not kind of, they are cool.
Okay, sorry.
Incredible creatures that are fierce and misunderstood. And their babies are so cute. The peeping and squeaking.
Also pretty vicious, though, I think.
Yes,
babies.
Yes, I do like the fact that they come out of the shell and they're like, yeah, just bite. First instinct.
Yeah, well.
Anywho, I think we need to stop.
Yes. The book was good. I would recommend it.
Yeah, it's really enjoyable. So read the book.
The end.
Do not steal a gator. So that's what we thought of the book, but those are just our opinions, and we'd like to hear yours. Leave us a comment.
Thanks for joining us for Books and Banter, and thanks to our editor, Linda. We'll see you next time.